So Nintendo stock has fallen 15%. Is the Wii U really dying? But before we get to this video, here's the question of the day. Alright, following my video yesterday regarding the Wii U and their sales projections falling and decreasing, I think it's like from 9 million down to like 2.8 million as far as their expectations go. Well, their shares have decreased more than 15% after the company announced the negative revisions to the Wii U and 3DS sales projections. So now that the Nintendo company is suffering, their share value has dramatically decreased. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely amazing. 2013, they have fallen so much. 2012, not that hot either. I mean, even in 2011, they were totally decreasing their stock. They were like losing, interest in their stock. Basically, their high points were around 2010-ish, and maybe 2008. Well, 2008 even higher. So, I think we've seen the peak of Nintendo with the Wii. I'm gonna be as bold. That's gonna be my bold statement of the day. That's going to be my... I stand by that. Nintendo has peaked as a company, as a developer, as a publisher, as a gaming company. Nintendo has peaked with the Wii. And as far as the Wii's first couple of years, 2007, 2008, that was their highest point in gaming in terms of interest, in terms of getting their product out there, in terms of people wanting to buy their stuff, their product, their games. Now that the Wii U has utterly flopped, and now their shares have fallen 15%, over 15%, because of the fact that, yesterday they had that news article, their financial projections have fallen. Oh man, Nintendo is just in dire straits right now. And I mean, this is a company in peril. And I love how, GameSpot, they really try to break it down, and they talked about how, the pros and cons of what could happen with Nintendo. They talked about how, if you remove the Wii U gamepad, it might actually be better. It doesn't really matter. You might as well just use the traditional controller or something like that. I mean, that's the initial gimmick of the Wii U, is the gamepad. That's the advertised thing. If you remove it, I can understand that. And really, if anything, they should have had both. They should have had the Pro basic controller, and then they had the gamepad, because you have to pay extra for the damn Pro controller, obviously. And because to have that flat touchpad looking thing, and I've played with it, messed around with it, it's not horrible. It's not as awkward as I thought it would be, but it's just like I can see why this isn't appealing to most people, and I can understand like the cumbersome nature of this damn pad when it comes to certain games. It's just not appealing. I mean, my god, they should have included the Pro Controller, I think, bundled in with every single Wii U console. And then, they got rid of the 8 gig basic model. They kept around the 32 gig. That became the primary system, the only system that they sold, really. So the 8 gig was a mistake. So right from the jump, right from the very beginning, they really effed up. And this is Nintendo. They screwed up so bad, it's embarrassing. And, they also talked about how if they become a third-party type of company, they'll have to rechange, they have to the way they develop these games, it's going to be a totally revamped thing. They have to totally change around the way they approach making games, because the way that they utilize and create these titles is to take advantage of the current gen, or even like last gen, older technology. and how they can apply it to the gimmicks of that particular system, whether it's the motion controls or the Wii U pad. It's a very specific thing with Nintendo. How can they market that? How can they use that gimmick to their advantage and market it to their demographic? But who cares? I would say, yeah, go ahead. I support Nintendo becoming a third-party developer. That will have to totally change it around, and you know what? They can adapt. That's fine. It's really not a big deal. They can just make games. Just make these games for other consoles. If they can adapt to their own damn peripherals and their controllers and their system, I mean, there's no excuse why they can't develop games for the other systems as well. Tinker around with it, play around with it. I mean, that's their... Put it this way, if they can't make games for the Xbox One and the PS4 properly, then they suck as a developer. Then they're really not that good, Can't adapt to the Kinect, can't adapt to the PS4. Then that's their problem. That's their limitation. I mean, if Sega can do it, then obviously Nintendo can. And the Wii U, I definitely think the Wii U is in trouble. See, the problem with the Wii U too is that the only people interested in the Wii U, every single person I've met that has a Wii U, are Nintendo marks. Like die-hard Nintendo fanatics and people that have followed Nintendo for every generation, and people just are always Nintendo fans first. And while it did provide Nintendo this install base of how many few million people that initially bought the Wii U, it's not a wide, massive fan base. It's not huge. It's not everybody. It's not the Microsoft people. It's not the Sony people. There's no crossover appeal. It feels more like this is like the GameCube all over again. It feels like the GameCube. And that was 10, 11, 12 years ago. It's the same feeling where it's like you had the powerhouse Xbox, which was like this new system for Microsoft, and it had its own share of titles, had the Halos and continuation of Sega franchises, and it was a new console, a new company coming in, Microsoft, into the console business. Like, there's that novelty, American company, certain titles like Dead or Alive and Fable and Brute Force and Knights of the Old Republic, some of the really big titles too. So the original Xbox had its share of fans, and the PS2 was just a monster. The PS2 was so big by reputation that it sold like 100 million by 2005, and that was a huge system. It was able to become a crossover hit, largely thanks in part because of the PS1. The PS1 was like this first success. It was so popular during the 90s, and then in the early 2000s, it was like, yeah, can't wait for the sequel, PS2, let's get that. So the GameCube was just like, it flopped compared to the other ones. It just wasn't as successful because of Nintendo's continuous practices of, they screwed up with the N64. Now the N64 wasn't a crappy system, and I'm not burying it, but it did fail on certain things. It was, cartridge only, limitations with the cartridges, its price point, it came out later in the generation, and there was just certain problems with the N64 that, man, and I can't believe how far Nintendo has fallen though. This is like the worst I've seen Nintendo at. This is really sad. The Wii U, man, I mean, this is... Oh, I feel bad for anybody who's got a Wii U right now. Just because... I mean, there's no hype for it. Nobody's interested in it. There's a few games coming out, a few exclusives here and there, but I mean, aside from like the Nintendo-owned stuff, the Wii U's gotta come back somehow. their stock has fallen. Here's the thing. Do I think the Wii U is gonna die? Not yet. I don't think so. I don't think Nintendo's gonna die either. I think it's just, this is such a low point for them, but they're always, it seems like always, Nintendo has found a way to just hang in there. Even though they're close to, like, you know, dying, or the system just totally, even if their system is losing the wars and losing market share, they always hang in there. The 3DS did really well. So they got the 3DS going, they got the handheld system, a lot of money there. They got Pokemon and shit like that, they got Mario exclusives, Zelda. It's just that the Wii U will still be around. It's just such a just horrible, it's such an ugly situation. I don't know. I've already explained myself, you know, I've already talked about how they could fix it. They should just start making more mature games and just head in a new direction. Have different games instead of just the same familiar faces. I mean, I was thinking, like, they should make a Mario game, for example. It could work. I mean, taking a look at an example, this is the best example I can think of. Conker was going to be like this kiddified game. You know, Conker had this reputation early on as this kiddified cartoonish character in the early mid-90s. And then, but in the early 2000s, for the N64, they released a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. Conker's Bad Fur Day is a very mature rated game. It had, like, sexual themes, violence, cursing, and potty humor. It was very mature oriented. Great game. Phenomenal. When they M-rated that bitch, Conker became incredible. If they did that with Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, it could really turn around Nintendo. Without having to, like, you know, become a third-party support, without having to move to other systems, without, you just, you know, stay as Wii U, you know. That could save the Wii U. But they're not going to do that, because Nintendo is way too PG, way too Disney-fied, family-friendly, and it's just, oh man. And here's the answer to the question of the day.